Hey, leaders, welcome to Auxano's latest Clarity First conversation. I'm excited this month as we have Auxano co-founder, CEO, and senior lead navigator, Jim Randall, talking to us a little bit about the dynamics that exist on staff teams and why that's so critical to leading forward with vision. This is a part of our vision leading toolbox. I'm excited that you're here for the conversation today. So let me pray and I'll do a little bit of intro and then I'll bring Jim out and we'll get started. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for these leaders who are joining us today. Lord, thank you for your calling on their lives. Lord, thank you for how much you are doing in and through them. And so, Lord, I thank you for just the provision of being called according to your grace, Lord, being called your child and being called to lead in whatever the giftings you've given us. So thank you for this time we get today. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Hey, just a couple quick reminders before we get started. We have a chat function. We'd love to know who's live with us. We'd love to know who's checking in later too. And so listen, if you're catching this later on StreamYard, I believe you can still hit the chat, but even live right now, we'd love for some question and answer time. We've heard from some of you a little bit ahead of time, and so we have a couple of questions that are kind of preceded, so if you will. But we'd love to know who you are and where you're watching from. Go ahead and hit that chat as always, and let us know you're here so Jim and I can see you. I'm gonna bring Jim out right now. Jim is once again our Auxano co-founder and you know, a leader of the team here. Jim, I'm trying to bring you up where everybody can see. There you are. How's it going today? How's it going today? Tell everybody where you are.
Good, Bryan.
And
Good, Bryan. I'm home in Merritt Island today, and so it's a beautiful day here in Florida. So it's good to be on the Clarity First conversation with you.
Jim, I know that for you, leadership in the church level is especially critical. And so today's topic of why vision requires progress before order for you is especially one of those things. As a leader in the church, you've served in executive pastor roles. You've served for the last 20 plus years as a functional fractional executive pastor through Auxano and the work you do. Why is this such an important conversation today for you?
Bryan, I love this thought, and it's quite frankly the creation or the genesis behind this webinar today, this conversation we're having. The thought is you can't steer a parked car. You can't steer a parked car.
I love that.
On.
Yeah.
What?
I love that. Tell me more.
Yeah. So, a vehicle requires what? It requires speed to be guided, to effectively be able to pursue ideas and strategic initiatives, and to be able to have that momentum. That the car has to be moving. There has to be progress. And only by setting the plans in motion that we put together as a church and as a leader, only by putting those plans in motion will we be able to assess and be able to adjust and be able to see our course and what's in front of us. And be able to see that we're actually heading toward those goals or to the achievement of the vision. Yeah. And what I believe, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more today, what I believe is embracing that we have to embrace the necessity of movement, because it's going to empower us to find our purpose as a church, our clarity, allowing for us to have that meaningful progress and to get off ground center, to move beyond being stuck, right? Yeah. And so many churches, they're just stalled out. They're just stuck.
So you said embrace the necessity of movement, right? That's what you said. Embrace the necessity of movement. And I guess that's kind of the problem that kind of brings the problem to the front, is that vision stalls. I mean, I know we've never seen this in any of the churches we've worked with at Auxano through the last few years, that we have great vision, great plans, great ideas, but they never seem to get traction. There's always a stall. There's always kind of like this image, kind of a sitting on the side of the road moment. Jim,
absolutely.
Let's look at some of the reasons why vision stalls. All right.
Well, these certainly aren't the only reasons, but here's a few of them. For whatever reason, as leaders, we limit breakthrough thinking in our team. And matter of fact, we're going to talk about this idea of structure and order, which I'm a huge fan of. And anybody who actually knows me personally, you know how much structure, order, process, strategic thinking is a part of my DNA. But if vision often will stall in a church when we limit the breakthrough thinking, and it because it is dominated by someone who is an order first leader,
Got it.
meaning the vision conversations that we're having, they remain focused on, okay, what's very practical? Is it, do we have proven examples and methods? And most of the time, we stifle that innovation and breakthrough thinking.
Yeah.
And so you hear, we've tried it that way before. I know, right? We've heard that about a million times. We tried it and it didn't work.
Sure.
We've got to get this whole thing organized and figured out before we can take it to launch.
Right.
Right. And so we limit that breakthrough thinking is one of the key ones. The second one is almost an opposite of this. And sometimes we ignite momentum without any structure at all. I mean, absolute chaos. I
Yeah.
mean, it is all over the board, right? And so we're going to go to the other side of the continuum of oftentimes progress first leaders. They are effective at maybe getting momentum going, getting
Yeah.
something started, but without any structure whatsoever, any plan, any organization around these ideas, that innovation just literally kind of dies out, falls off of the wayside, just completely disperses because there's nothing kind of underneath it, right?
Yeah.
Nothing supporting it. A third one that I think of when I think of why vision stalls in churches and the teams that we work with is that oftentimes teams and leaders get very frustrated from misalignment from within their team,
Mm.
right? So there's different leadership styles and there's different leadership ideology and the methodology of how it's going to be done. And all of a sudden, there is this somewhat of a conflict, if you will, between what we're going to call today progress-oriented leaders and order-oriented leaders, and that frustration of misalignment is they're almost in competition with each other in such a way that sometimes they're even working against each other, and they can feel overwhelmed, right?
Right.
Either side of those. And I think of the fourth one, Brian. The fourth one is really kind of at the, I don't know, just at the crux of everything that we do. It is that we need clarity and awareness. It often vision gets stalls because there is a need for clarity and awareness. So I think of, for example, achieving vision clarity requires the alignment, requires the overarching goals, right? But also not only requires those things, but also understanding of how each leader is going to approach that clarity, how they're going to lead through that clarity, how they are going to advance the vision that God's given to them. And so, what we're going to be talking about today is how leaders should be recognizing the different postures, right?
Okay.
The different energy that their team would have.
I mean, if I was going to kind of have a little bit more room there, I would say we need organizational clarity overall, right?
Yes.
The work that
Yep.
Auxano
100%.
does,
Yep.
and also personal awareness. So there's the whole
Yep.
of the organization needs clarity, but everyone with leading within the organization needs that level of self-awareness of how they lead. And is that a fair?
It's 100% fair, and you really can't be effective without having a good clarity, organization clarity. You got to have both. That's what I'm trying to say. You
So
got
I
to have
wonder
both, not just
if
one.
those that are dialed in with us live or even watching after the fact, just hit in the comments real quick. Which one of these do you see the most? Just hit 1, 2, 3, or 4. Just drop them in there. Like which one of these becomes like kind of the biggest thing you've seen stall, maybe at your church or my friend's church, if it's not your church, you know what I mean? But which one of those have you seen most often when it comes to vision stalling? The breakthrough thinking being limited, the momentum being ignited without structure, or maybe the frustration within the teams, or even that kind of the distinction of the need for organizational clarity and personal awareness and leadership. So I think that's a critical thing to know, kind of in the context we're all in, what that is. And yeah, John, it may be more than one of those. So that's a good point here.
Yeah, for sure.
Walk me through this kind of this other tension point you're here.
It's just it's an in-your-face reminder. This is what we do, right? This is what we do as leaders in our church. But yet the Project Management Institute, PMI, come back and said, hey, 70% of visionary projects fail to meet their original goals and objectives, and never takes off, never gets traction, never goes where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And it is a real problem in churches all across America. I would say it is probably number one, not having vision is issue number one for churches, especially churches that are stuck. Maybe they're stalled out. Maybe they're at a stage to where they are plateaued and maybe even beginning to decline. But yet they also are, caught in this this issue and a part of this statistic that even if they had a vision to move forward, they fail at being able to reach those original goals and objectives.
And so, Jim, this is a part of the tension that I know has led to the tool we're about to look at. That begins with an assessment, and then kind of there's an interactive piece of it. And I'm thankful you're going to walk us through that. But it's this tension point that we've experienced personally in the work we do as a strategic outsider with church leaders is we can bring and help facilitate and kind of be a catalyst for great plans and projects and visions and some of those. But if there's no ability to execute in the organization, if the energy is off in the execution, then it's not going to work. And I know that's what's led you personally in the last few years to develop what we now call the execution energy assessment. The execution. Give us a quick thumbnail of that, and then we'll just kind of walk right into it for everybody watching.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that a part of the thumbnail is for all of us to kind of go on this journey together real quick and take this assessment. There's really technically only 3 questions. And as a part of these 3 questions, it's really just kind of assessing where you may land in this area of execution energy. And so, Bryan, let's look at Q1. Let's look at question 1. So question 1 very much is about how the leader, and by the way, each of the 3 questions, which of the 3 is most true of your leadership? Which of the 3 is most true?
So this is that personal awareness.
It's a personal question for you to answer as a leader. Doesn't matter if you're senior.
Clarity, we've set off to the side. That's a different idea altogether. This is really dealing with the second half of that bullet 4 of the personal awareness of how you lead and what your kind of posture tends to be. Is that fair?
That's exactly right. Doesn't matter what your role is: senior minister, senior pastor, lead pastor, executive pastor, student pastor, communications director, really kind of any role within the church, within that top leadership of the church. I want to challenge you to answer each of these 3 questions. Each one of them, you'll choose the one that is most true of your leadership, that's most characteristic of you. You can answer it very, very personal, right? And so 3 options here of the first question, which is most true of your leadership. The leader fosters a culture of innovation free from traditional constraints.
Okay.
Focus there is on fostering this just overarching culture of innovation. B, the leader encourages innovation, but notice it with some boundaries, right? No boundaries in the first one, right? No walls, nothing holding back. The second one says, B says, hey, listen, there's some boundaries for us to work within as it relates to innovation. And then the third one, C, is the leader prioritizes innovation through a very systematic process. Like point A, point B, point C,
scheduled and structured on
That's
C.
Right.
And on the first one, it maybe doesn't even happen on purpose or on time. It just
absolutely
appears.
Could be organic, could be something that's purely conversational, right?
So that'd be we'd score ourselves based on the numbers and the parentheses at the end.
There's a number to the right, whichever one you choose, take that number and put it there. So if you're number 2 on this one, if you're B, the leader encourages innovation within boundaries, put the score 2 right there in that one, and we'll move forward to the next.
So it's most like me, right?
Most like you, most true of your leadership.
I can't do like a 1.5.
No, can't do a 1.5. I know you want to.
I know I want to. All right, let's go to question 2.
Same question. What is most true of you, your leadership? The leader, and by the way, Bryan, if you can go back, will you go back?
I can, and I
This
will.
Q1 is all about, and you see the key word that is carried over. It's all about innovation, right? It's
Sure.
all about how we ideate. It's all about how we think. It's all how we come up with the ideas and the plans that God has for our ministry or our church. So if Q1 is about innovation, Q2, which we're moving to now, Q2 is all about the strategies. It's
Okay.
all about how we're developing it, how we're building it, right?
Strategies is a big word. What do you mean?
It's a big
Give us
word.
minutes
It's a
on
big
strategy.
word, right?
You mean
This leader is going to thrive. Is going to thrive in dynamic strategies, showing flexibility and responsiveness. So you want to think about the strategies, and here's another word I would tie to Q2. Question two, it's the idea of agility. What is the agility of our
sure.
strategy? What is the agility of our strategy? And so in the first one, it's very dynamic. Flexibility, responsiveness, right? Year one. If you're choosing the next one, the leader values adjusting strategies. So notice we go from dynamic, which could be very active all over the board. Adjusting strategies are going to be what? A little more calculated, right? They're going to be a little more intentional. It's based upon changing conditions, right? But still doing what? Adhering to some guidelines. There's some parameters. If you're that B leader there of leading, the leader values adjusting strategies. And then the last one is the leader encourages refining strategies. Back to that within a pretty structured framework, meaning we're not going to be like pushing too far outside of anything that we've pre-established.
Yeah.
We are really going to be more strict to following our framework. And once again, you'll see the differences in these going from one to the next is all about the agility of your strategies. Are they able to maneuver, or are they feel more fixed?
And really, in some ways, Jim, that feels like a pattern of doing things the way, like I can take an idea and my strategy, even though it may be a new idea, if I'm a C or a 3 on the scale, I'm going to implement in the same way I tend to always implement that thing.
That's right.
Versus a 1 is going to go, hey, this is a completely new idea. So there's a completely new way of implementing this strategy, and kind of just, dynamic flexibility, almost looks forward to the conditions changing so they can do something, versus B is like, will be responsive when the conditions change, but doesn't really like seek that like A does.
Let's say this, Bryan. Let's say this. The global pandemic did not catch the leader who thrives in dynamic strategy off guard. Like they
didn't sideline them. They may have been caught off guard, but it didn't sideline them. They just
okay. Fair enough. But you hear the
melodramatic
melodramatic comment in here. That knowing that they have to be flexible and responsive to what was changing, they're able to embrace that and able to move to that rather quickly, right?
Mike actually enjoyed the forced differential, even when everything else was horrific, miserable. Oh, I can do something new in a different way.
That's right. Jumping all over it, right?
That's good. All right.
So
everybody should get a 1, 2, 3 on this one, right? 1, 2, 3 on this.
Same thing. 1, 2, 3. Whatever your score is, if it's a 3, put it down there. So first one's about innovation. Second one is about the agility of strategy, and this third one is about going kind of leaning heavy into the structure. So if I would put a one word on this one, it would be structure. So this A leader, they do not need a framework of structure to ignite momentum. It is all in. Let's go. Let's roll. That's their mantra. Let's roll. Let's do this thing, right? They do not need to have to figure out something. They're able to roll. They're able to pivot. They're able to execute and jump into something just on demand. The B leader sets a framework of expectations to foster advancement. So they've got a plan for this structure. Like they've got a plan for this moving forward. They've got to have a frame. Okay, we're going to go, and this is what you're going to typically see. we're going to go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 in order for us to launch this or get this going or get this off and running. So it's a more structured approach
Yeah.
to advancing the strategy, to seeing it moving forward.
Be like a Gantt chart of some like, you know, they love. Is this the moment where the person, or is that?
I'm going to put that to the C leader, Brian.
Okay.
I'm going to put that to the C leader, and I'm going to roll with that. I love the way you brought that up. I'm going to probably say maybe they have just a notes app in Apple that's just a very simple one, and they've got 4 or 5 bullets there. So they're not the Gantt chart yet, you know, but they're also not really winging it either, right?
Yeah.
And so they have that framework. And by the way, just going into the third one, right? They believe a very well-developed framework. It's built out. It's a Gantt chart with a Excel file with multiple tabs of execution for each one. Okay, that may be a little extreme, but it's pretty well thought out, right? And that's their process for enhancing progress, right? Okay. So all these are about the structure that's needed to have, if you see the last word for each of these 3, momentum, advancement, and progress. Like, what do they need to see momentum, advancement, and progress take place?
Got it.
And so once again, back to the scoring. If you're a 1, 2, or 3, put whatever your number is down there, and then straightforward, pretty simple. You calculate the total score. Just add up the 3, right? The 3 scores you have, and then divide it by 3.
All right.
And it's kind of a
Jim, what's your score when you do this? I know this is kind of unfair, but where do you fall on this?
Brian, I want to know your score. The challenge I have, here's the challenge I have, is I have been working in and around and building this tool, rebuilding and designing around this tool for probably about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I will have a tendency to not be as objective as I should be.
Sure.
Let's just say this. Before the tool, in all honesty, I was probably a
Let's
1.
Name each other's score.
Do what?
Let's name each other's score. That's more fun because I've seen it so much too. Right. I think, I mean, it's all dynamic. I think through the years.
Sure, it is.
I think through the years, you've actually moved from like a 2.25 to a 1.75. Right. I think through the years, you've done that.
Yeah, you'll see the numbers as a 2.3 to like a 1.7.
Yeah.
And
what about
some of that is breakthrough in your leadership, right?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Just different.
But and Brian, you're probably have moved from a 1 to a 1.7.
Yeah.
And right. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Hit the chat. You know, hopefully this is giving you guys time to everybody.
I want to hear scores, Brian. I really want to hear scores on here.
Pop some scores up there. And really the idea here is this is really a team-centered activity. So this
totally
is
team-centered.
Available for replay. You guys can show this to your team. And I love it, John. Put an exclamation point after your score so we know which question you're answering. Like, this is something you can show this replay to your team and everybody kind of pause and do this real time, right, Jim? We'll have a download available afterward.
Yes.
You can download the assessment so that you can pass something out if you're paper people. And do that. So this is really a team score. So the idea here is then we come back and we plot everyone on a continuum.
This is probably one of the most fun parts of the exercise, Brian, because it is just kind of seeing where everybody lands. There's some prefixed numbers here. You take any of those numbers, they're going to fall in one of these 7 kind of data points, right? And you begin to see how the team lands, right?
I think I like Susan.
So I think
I like Susan. Susan's my kind of person.
Susan. You get along well with Susan. And
Craig
Cindy
avoids me in the hallway. Craig avoids me in the hallway.
For sure. You would give Craig a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So you create some stress in Craig's life, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. What I love to do now, though, is actually introduce the map, Brian. So if we can go ahead and go, we'll do an overlay in a few moments. When we talk about this execution energy map, we want to think about it, quite frankly, on these 2 verticals. The vertical on the left is about movement, and the vertical on the right is about management. We use the word progress and order. So the movement one is all about where we're headed, the momentum that we have, where we're, what kind of progress are we seeing happening. And then once you move to the right side, of this particular map. It's all about the order, the structure, the organization, right? So there's a lot of words you could use up there.
Any vision requires both movement and management, right?
Every vision requires movement and management. Every vision. At the end of the day, but not necessarily at the start of the day. And that's kind of what we want to focus on for sure, right? So let's unpack these. Let's unpack these a little bit. This is going to help us kind of think through, and then we'll do an overlay with our team here as we continue to move forward.
It's bigger. We're both still here, but I'm gonna make it bigger.
Okay, yeah, it's great. Okay, so we want to think about this. Once again, we're going to start in this bottom left, and the idea is that there's 4 plots on the execution energy map. I like to typically start with 3, talking about progress without order in the bottom left quadrant, right? Progress without order. This characterizes a dynamic state of advancement where those innovative ideas, right, and actions, they thrive, they rapidly develop, they take off. They do not need a formal structure, right? So the person who is at between a 1 and a 1.3 is someone who thrives in this kind of culture of progress without order. The second quadrant that I want to draw a little attention to is actually in the middle, and it's actually just slightly to the right. So I know I've kind of drawn it a little bit kind of on center, but it's actually just a little bit off center. And this is where the idea is that progress and order meet in such a balanced way. As a matter of fact, we want to think about this. Progress and order refers to a balanced state of advancement, of progress, right? Where innovative ideas are implemented within a structured framework, right? And this enables that execution to happen. And here's the key thought here. There is typically sustainable development when you see the progress and order. And for, I would say, close to, this may be embarrassing, 25 years of my life, I thought I needed to live in the progress and order space, that I needed to have balance.
So right at the top.
Right at the top, sitting right at the top, and that I could, be there and just kind of hold the best of both worlds and be that guide, right? There are some things through ministry years that we learn, and actual putting ministry into practice, that we learn that, maybe it's not quite what we think. But let me keep going. In the bottom right quadrant, there is a place that's called order is progress. And what happens in this quadrant is that there's the leader recognizes that while established processes can slow movement, right, they are still celebrated by providing the stability and efficiency necessary for sustained success.
So the leader is celebrated, or the processes are celebrated?
The process, the order, and the structure is celebrated, even if progress isn't happening. And listen, by the way, life cycle analysis, right?
Yeah.
Bottom left quadrant is what? Accelerating, right?
Yeah.
Top left quadrant's booming. Top right is declining. Bottom right is dying. Well, if we're in a dying stage, the only thing we have to celebrate, Bryan, is that structure and that order and that system that we have in place.
Meaning that has taken priority, the having the structure, taking up the offering the proper way every Sunday has become more important than the spirit of generosity behind the offering.
100%.
Got it.
So Bryan, you tagged, I love the way you did this the other day. We were talking through this, and I love these little just kind of reminders, just kind of quippy reminders or thinking about these. But let me share the fourth one. Let me make this comment. Okay.
All right.
So in the reason why I say this one to last is in that top left quadrant, there is this idea, there is this challenge that we need progress before order. Because it's where progress is before order. That's where it encourages swift advancements and innovative actions, right? While flexible structures evolve alongside development, right? And so we've got to take off. We got to get going. The action. We got to make it happen. We got to move forward. Remember my opening illustration? We can't steer a parked car, right? That progress allows us to move forward. Well, the reason why there's such a focus here on this top left progress before order is unless we get the car moving, the car ain't going to go anywhere unless we can figure.
It's useless. The car is designed to move.
It's useless.
Got it.
And my fear is, here's my fear, is that many leaders just like myself have found themselves caught on the right side of this map.
The management
side.
And
I don't mean the correct side. I mean the literal right side if you're
management side.
That's right. And they're not seeing the movement, they're not seeing the momentum, they're not seeing the impact, they're not seeing the life change take place. And but so therefore
we have to have management, right? I mean, like, let me just push in here a little bit, Jim.
Okay. That's right.
We can't just be all movement all the time, right?
We cannot be movement all the time. There is no question. And I'm prepared for the emails, the calls, and the texts. I'm prepared for our executive pastors. I'm prepared for our Insights Blue leaders to push back. I am not saying, as you just reinforced, I am not saying that management, order, structure, and process should not be there. I am saying that won't matter if we don't have movement. If we go from launching something on the left side and immediately find ourselves in the bottom right,
trying to manage it, trying to push it into a structure and system.
That's literally having a car that is parked in someone's barn, and it's parked in a barn for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's never been driven. It's still in mint condition, and you pick the car up and you take it to the junkyard and you crush it.
Yeah.
Right? And my point being is that we've got to drive the car. We've got to get it out of park, and we've got to be intentional about that as leaders. Yeah. And the idea of balance isn't probably going to get us there, because we've seen time and time again in my life, in my leadership, in my ministry, I've seen time and time again that when I get to the top of that apex, when I get to the top of that bell curve, I am one breath away from being in decline.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, it is all about how do we have that bias toward progress before order. Bryan, can we share those four?
Throw them up there. Yeah. Progress without order, chaos rules. Yeah. Tell us more.
Yeah. I mean, listen.
Pretty self-explanatory, right?
We have the churches. I mean, we have the churches. We have the churches that the phone call happens because they are blowing and growing. They're making a difference. I mean, they're having impact. Things are happening all over the place, but it is chaos. They are one decision. They're one breath. They're one step away from the entire thing imploding, right? So this goes back to, you got to have structure. You got to have process. You got to have some order in place, right?
Yeah.
That you can't just do ministry where chaos rules.
Right.
And it be sustainable.
Right.
Right.
Progress before order, momentum fuel.
Yeah.
Right.
Movement cools. Is that the one you're going to? Oh, sorry, my bad. Momentum fuels. My bad. Yeah. Momentum fuels. Right? What's it take to charge it? What's it take to get it going?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Turn it over. I ran out of gas recently.
You didn't tell me that.
I saved it for a national broadcast. I ran out of gas recently and had to go do one of those things, call and get the Uber to pick me up to go get a gas can, to fill it with gas, come back on the side of the road, put it in there. And you ready for this? I put a whole thing of gas in there, and my Jeep still does not start. There is no fuel, and there's not enough fuel in there. I mean, it's bone dry. And my our guardian angel or someone within about 10 seconds of me going, what am I going to do now? Do this whole thing again. One of the range road rangers pulled up behind me and literally says, I got this. And within 15 seconds, put another, couple of gallons of gas in there, and ignition, momentum. The vehicle was fueled, and I was able to move forward. And without that, I wasn't going anywhere. Doesn't matter how good my vehicle is if there's no fuel. So momentum fuels.
Got to keep an eye on that little
You
gauge
do,
thing.
you do. And it's best to stay on the phone the whole time.
When that little light comes on, that you know.
Yes.
All right. Progress in order.
Yes.
Movement cools.
See,
cool.
Order is important. Order is important for sure, right?
Yeah.
But as we progress, it's that small step, right? To where you go from progress before order and momentum has fueled to where all of a sudden movement will start to cool off.
Yeah.
Right. We hit that stopping point.
Movement hasn't stopped. It's just cooling off, and it's
cooling off.
It's almost like, hey, you're trying to make it to the gas station. You're trying to coast up there, put it in neutral, save a little gas, but you can tell. Okay.
You got it. And listen, it's a slippery slope. We know that, right? Yeah. It's a slippery slope. When we get to that point where movement begins to cool, it doesn't take much for it to do a nosedive, right? Yeah. And then I love the contrast. So if progress without order is about chaos and how chaos rules, right?
Yeah.
So let's kind of do the pendulum here, or the contrast. Then when we go to order is progress, then what's the driving thing? Perfection ensues. That's all that matters to us, is that structural, organizational perfection.
Okay. We have
chaos takes over on the left versus perfection on the right.
And that's what you mean, the perfection of the organization, right? It is
the perfection of everything being so well tuned, so well, oiled machine. It looks great. It's not going anywhere, but it looks really good.
Once again,
we're not making a difference for the kingdom, but we've got a lot of really polished activity taking place.
I love what you put there, because it says organization ensues, and really what I see there is that organization. The organization becomes all about organization. Like,
that's right.
It is like this living, breathing organism that all of a sudden shifts into like everything has its place, and and it's really more about keeping that from being off than actually being effective in what the organization exists to do.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Love it. Good stuff. Here's what it looks like when you plot the team over it, right? And this is why this is kind of fun. Because you can start to see, well, where's everybody living on this?
You just immediately, as you understand the plotting on the map, then you just kind of see where everybody lands, and kind of a little bit of that wiring for them. Right. And listen, there's a couple things to think about here.
I'm feeling miserable right now.
Craig,
or Dave, like a friend of mine named David, who may be a 3. Like, how do you keep them from feeling like, oh well, what value do I have for the organization? Or, keep JT and Michael in place,
right?
Give us some thoughts.
Here's the thing too. Susan could be feeling miserable too, because Susan could have had 10 things that she tried in the last year and none of them succeeded.
Yeah.
Right. And so I would say this, there's 2 things to both Craig and Susan. Number one, thank God for that. This is a team, right? That as a team, we bring gifts and strengths and just the ways, things that we're allowed to, that we bring to help the team advance, right? So number one, thank God for the team that each have a role to bring in a perspective, because we've already said this, you can't have progress before order. You can't have that without some level of order. And so you need everyone that's 2.3, 2.7, a 3.0 to speak into that. But the same thing happens for those that are on the right side. They need the 1.0s, the 1.3s, and the 1.7s, and to speak in to help to provide that energy, that excitement, and that innovation. So that's what I would say. That's the good word I would give to Craig, and the same good word I'd give to Susan. Then I'd say one more thing to them. I am a firm believer that whom God calls, he equips. I am a firm believer that while we have certain gifts and abilities and callings and ministry experiences and everything that's unique to us, he does give us the ability to move sideways from time to time. And I think that for a season, Craig could be a 2 or he could be a 1.7. I think for a season, Susan and Cindy and Joseph could be a 2.7 when they're being challenged to kind of step into the order, right? And so that's what I would say. Say again?
For at least a meeting, they could be.
For at least a meeting. It may only be for a meeting.
Yeah.
But for at least a meeting, they can step into that. They can slide into that. And I know that. I also know that God over time will give us ministry breakthroughs, right? And those ministry breakthroughs, there are times that there are leaders. I know specific leaders that are 2.7s and 3.0s, and they are some of my most favorite people to bring innovation because they bring some of the most well thought out innovation to the table before it's ever even said.
Yeah.
Right.
We just can't let the structure and systems dictate.
That's right.
Like how that innovation
that's right.
That's right. We get it.
Now, so with that being said,
still
with that being said, there is an important conversation that happens right here. And Bryan, if you go back one slide to where the team's plotted.
Yep.
There's an important conversation here, and that important conversation is what's the bias of our team? Like, what's our natural state of our with our execution energy map? How are we mapped in our natural state? Because that natural, sometimes I'll use the phrase default. If we're not being challenged, if we're not being intentional, then the default is just where we land. And it's possible in many organizations that they would land to the far right or to the far left in their natural state. And so it's important for a leader to have conversation to see where their team lands, each team member lands, because that's the natural default contribution they're going to bring in this process.
Yeah.
And I love plotting it. I mean, I just love looking at it. I love the way you can just begin to see how leaders are thinking through. One of our dear friends in ministry, a part of the Auxano tribe for well over 10 or 12 years, is Southside Church in Warner Robins. And so we just recently were in Orlando and doing a staff retreat, Matt Walls, Billy Andrews at Southside. And we went through and we walked through this exercise, right? And it was a big staff here. Like this was pretty close to being an all staff for this team, right? And so we plotted, we had to, took the assessment, began the plot, and you can see them looking at it on the wall, kind of where it landed. Let's go ahead and look at the next slide, which is kind of a quick view of it, right? So you can see down there, we had quite a few people. I think there was well over 20 people that were involved.
Sure.
And you can see where this team landed in a bit of that natural state.
Yeah.
We didn't have anybody landing at a pure 1.0, but we had quite a few 1.3s. And Bryan, you had just been hanging out right there in that group right there, and you guys would be having all kinds of fun, and you would have solved every world problem within 15 minutes and took care of everything that the church needed.
My ADHDators, the ideators, ADHDators, like every 5 minutes, like, let's go, love it.
But take a look at the other end of the spectrum, because you talked about somebody being at a 3.0. Well, there's Billy sitting over there as a 3.0 as an executive pastor, right?
Yeah.
Over there, loving and acknowledging order is progress. And this church wouldn't be where it is, right? And by the way, senior minister Matt sitting at that 2.67, 2.7 mark right there. The church would not be where it is today with that ability, without those two leaders having very calculated, putting the right people around them to have the innovative conversations, to kind of push the envelope, but also to kind of mitigate that, calculate that, make sure it's a what do you call it, like a calculated risk, I
Yeah.
guess maybe is a way to say it, right?
Right.
But yet still going, hey, we get. And so you ready? Once again, I'm not sure if Matt's on here this afternoon. Oftentimes is. They are literally, Bryan, launching 2 campuses on the same day this September. Campus, I think, I may be wrong, campus 3 and 4.
Okay.
Could be 4 and 5, but I think it's campus 3 and 4. 2 campuses, same day. Senior leadership sitting over here to 2.6, 2.7 to 3.0, but on the same day. That's not right. That's not a, that's not a conservative move, is it?
No. I mean, that is a great blend, quite frankly, of hey, we need progress, but you're not going to do that without a lot of good order. And so
that's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
Working together, Jim.
So beautiful kind of marriage of the two. And so listen, I love this. I love this tool. I do think there's some things we have to intentionally do as leaders.
Yeah.
So you'll see 8 really quick things that I would challenge all of us to kind of lean into as it relates to how to.
Let me just offer up, if this is a moment where if you're watching live, and even if you're watching the replay, email, put them in there still. Like, what are some questions you have? What are some thoughts you have? We'll get to that in just a minute. But Jim, jump back into it now. That kind of this.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's
8
great.
ways,
and listen, they're practical. They're super practical. I'm just going to throw them out there real quick, and then leave a little room for any Q&A. Number 1 is you got to emphasize innovation as a leader.
Yeah.
You got to emphasize innovation. You got to focus on new ideas, approaches. Always ask that question, right? Always be exploring. You've got to promote flexibility and adaptability. If you're going to have that progress before order, you're going to try to have your team operate in there. You got to prioritize progress that allows them to remain agile, right, and responsive to the changing circumstances. You got to encourage risk taking. And Bryan, I do think these pop up. I think these are listed. Maybe not.
Got a little technical difficulty, buddy. So I'm trying to.
Got it. No worries. And so encouraging risk taking, which is obviously cultivating an atmosphere where the team members feel empowered to take initiatives to lead, right? To experiment with things. Another one is this idea of you've got to facilitate or navigate and the iterative improvement. This is what I mean by that. You've got to make sure that you are always in a progressive improvement. We're going to make this better. We're going to iterate it. And we're going to refine what we're doing in order to advance. We're not going to just settle for where it is, or even, we're going to make sure that we're making a difference and we're seeing the impact. Another one is supporting the dynamic prioritization, right? This is huge. Okay. That there is immediate progress that may need to take precedence over anything else. Okay, so you ready for this? What happens when the car is dead and won't start, right? And
or runs out of gas.
The battery
runs out of gas.
Because it runs out of gas is one, but it won't start. The battery's dead, right? It doesn't matter what else you're going to do. You got to get a new battery, or you got to get gas in that tank. It takes immediate prioritization.
Yeah.
And I don't think leaders do that. I don't think leaders kind of think in that tactical way of going, hey, what needs our immediate priority to get this moving?
Right.
Listen, here's another one. I think you got to err to the side of, you got to be okay with a little chaos before structure. It's okay. And I think that was my biggest breakthrough in ministry, because I've been such a control freak my whole life, to come back and say, you know what, God, this is your plan, this is your will, this is your church, this is your bride.
Yeah.
And whatever you need, whatever needs to happen for this movement to take place, I yield that to you, right? Constant motivator, motivate those team members, right? Got to make sure that you're always letting them know that they're making the right decisions, moving in the right spot. And then here's this last one I kind of slipped in here. This was like this is a fourth quarter last minute kind of ad.
Hail Mary.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that. A little bit of that. I began to think about what's the mindset that you have to kind of instill in
Sure.
order for your team to kind of make its way to that progress before order. And now listen, this is not meant to be overbearing, but we have to think about results focused mindsets. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I have a ministry friend that they do not invest or participate in any mission endeavor, or any is probably a stretch, but their priority are mission endeavors that have evangelistic impact, that have results, that are moving the needle.
Yeah.
It's their wiring. God bless them, right? But what I like about that is that our mindset becomes, what do we have to do to see results happen?
Right.
Because as ministry leaders in churches, it is so common for us to put something in play and just let it go through the motions. And it just goes and goes and goes until whoever put it in motion leaves or dies and moves on. In some cases, it still doesn't change then.
Yeah.
Right. And so having that results focused mindset going, hey, we want to make sure we're moving the needle.
Yeah.
I think are 8 ways as a leader. If you can infuse these into your team, you're going to pull them no matter where they are, whether they're a 1, a 1.3, or whether they're sitting over here at a 2.3 to a 3.0. It's going to pull them to that progress before order kind of place as a team.
I'm going to run through them one more time just so they're up here.
Yep.
Emphasize innovation, promote flexibility and adaptability, encourage risk-taking, facilitate iterative improvement, always get better, support dynamic prioritization, in the moment, what matters most, air to chaos before structure, let it get a little wild before it gets a little, calm, motivate your team members, and then drive results-focused mindsets.
Yeah.
Great. I love it, Jim. We anchor this in the scripture.
Yeah, a time for everything, right? There's a time for progress. There's a time for order. I love Ecclesiastes 3. It's kind of been one of my key passages most of my life. 3:1, especially, a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. There is a time to focus on that progress. There's a time to focus on the order. My opening comment of you can't steer a parked car. Progress allows us to move forward. There's a season where progress allows us to move forward, while order helps keep us on the right path. So, leader, I pray that in this next season, if you're trying to make that momentum happen, that you do your best to focus your team around progress before order.
I love it, Jim. Let's talk about next steps for the team, and then we'll make sure we got all the questions answered. First and foremost, this downloadable energy assessment, the organizational energy execution energy map, like that lives in a document, a handout that could be used for the team. You'll get an email following this if you've registered, and anybody watching it has. You can download that, use it as a team. You can replay this webinar. You'll get a link to a replay on that to do that. Also, if you're ready for a coaching call, maybe we've focused on that 4th point, Jim, this whole time on the personal understanding, but maybe the organizational clarity is what's escaping you right now. Maybe there's still a need to know, hey, what are we executing on? What is the actual vision? We don't have any problem getting things done. We have a problem of knowing what it is we need to get done. Having that shared view of God's better future. I think that's a great moment to engage with Auxano. We'd love to have that conversation with you. And man, I'm so thankful, Jim, that you were able to jump on and kind of bring this tool to everybody. I did see that Bob wanted us to run back through those 8 things one more time. So
Okay,
emphasize
good.
innovation, promote flexibility and adaptability,
Yep.
encourage risk taking, facilitate iterative improvement, support dynamic prioritization, air to chaos before structure, motivate team members. Jim, we just have a couple minutes left on this broadcast. The last
Yes.
one was drive results, focus mindsets. I know one question came up in just kind of as the senior leader, what can I do to help everyone thrive where God has created them in that kind of, like you said, that natural state? What's something that a senior leader can do to help their people thrive?
Well, ultimately, I'm going to say it's about communicate. It's about awareness and communication. So, what can I do? I can know where my people, the team that I lead, where they're plotted in progress and order. Like I know where their natural place is. That's number one. Number two, I think it's important for you to know how to step in and kind of foster or raise that contribution to the point that it's needed. So if somebody has the order part, you're able to bring in the order when that time comes. If you need the innovation, you're able to work with the people that are the 1.3s and ones to bring them in. So kind of having the awareness, knowing how to utilize it. Listen, I will say that I've worked with ministry leaders and we covered this. And one of the greatest challenges that I'll see a senior leaders do sometimes is get frustrated that they have a team that is opposite of them. You're on mute, or I'm lost you on mute.
That's good. What you're saying is they know in their hearts they need people not like them, but they
Right.
also know that they're frustrated trying to lead people not
That's
like
right.
them.
That's right. Now imagine being on either one of the spectrums here, right? And you're
Sure.
kind of a lone ranger on one of those spectrums. You could get frustrated because there's a certain bias you have. And let's just be honest, a lot of times we expect people to move toward our bias.
Yeah.
Right? And
Sure.
and I would say that's not the best move. The best move is for you to have awareness of them, of everyone, to be able to know how to leverage that and help to cultivate that for the
Yeah.
for the health of the church.
Yeah. Jim, thanks for your wisdom and insight. Thanks for bringing 20 plus years of strategic outsider leadership, and then another 15 or more years of inside church staff leadership to this tool. I hope as leaders you've been able to engage, maybe even know a little bit more about yourself, and certainly know more about your team, how to lead, and see vision move with effectiveness. Once again, if you're ready for the conversation, we'd love to be a part of it here. We are always glad that you take time out of your month to join us now, and we look forward to seeing you again in August. July will be Rewind. We're going to bring some of the best of, some of the highlight clips, some of the best of the last few months. Every week, we'll have some more clips from these Clarity First conversations. We're going to jump back in August. I'm pretty excited about the conversations ahead this fall. Always pushing the leadership forward to lead with vision clarity. Thanks everybody for being a part. We love getting to do this journey with you.